In this presentation entitled Shouting Fire in a Crowded Hashtag, I will be analyzing a real-world dilemma facing social media platforms and their algorithms. This project is prompted on a court case, a very sad and tragic court case that is currently pending. In 2021, a 10-year-old girl named Nyla was on TikTok, and the TikTok algorithm suggested that she watch some videos about a hashtag blackout challenge. The little girl watched the videos which promote choking, and she tried it and accidentally choked herself and died. The mother, understandably devastated, has sued TikTok for their part in showing her this video.
This case is devastatingly sad, and obviously, social media platforms need to take it seriously and make decisions to prevent any sort of thing like this happening again. So, in this presentation, I'll be using the Ethical Business Leaders Decision Tree to analyze the legal issues, how leaders need to also balance shareholder value, and finally, what kind of decision-making tools they should use to make the most ethical decision for the future of their company as it relates to the algorithm to keep public and individuals safe.
Before I dive into the legal issues, I'm going to talk about what is the algorithm, because there's a big distinction between the third-party content and the algorithm. The algorithm is something that the social media platforms control, and it is the base of everything that keeps users engaged. It keeps advertisers serving up their ads to the people that they want to see them. That is their business platform. That is their product, if you will, is their app has very sophisticated algorithms that track what users like and engage with in order to serve up more content like that. So I'll start out by saying there's no doubt that the algorithm that these social media companies have developed works. Otherwise, why would I have dog cigarettes? I was not looking for dog cigarettes, but then this cute little video of a dog carrying around a dog cigarette popped up on my news feed. It wasn't somebody that I subscribed to. It was somebody that the algorithm magically delivered to me. And here we are. Come here, Riley. There you go. Here's your dog cigarette. There you go. Let's see. Riley, look at me. Ha 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 ha. The dilemma the company faces is creating an algorithm that promotes user engagement and, of course, getting people to watch hours and hours of content, which we as parents don't love, but that's the goal of the company, because the more views they have and the more engagement they have, the more advertisers will pay for and want to advertise on their platform. However, they do have responsibility to the public to make sure that the content that is being shared on the platform, created by third-party users, is appropriate and is not going to create harm. First, I'd like to note that TikTok clearly has already taken steps to eliminate this content, especially the blackout challenge. I logged on to TikTok, which I don't have a TikTok account, but I logged on to TikTok to look up the blackout challenge to see what kind of content would pop up, and was surprised and actually happy to see that what was delivered is a screen that says your safety matters and a link to resources. So it is not showing this content, and they have taken responsible steps to take it down, and also taken it a step further by providing resources and flagging it to the user that this is not content that they need to see, and if they need help, here's how.
The first step in the ethical business leader's decision tree model is to determine if the proposed action is legal.
So one of the key takeaways for this course is to know when to call an attorney. And so that is what I did. I called my friend, Mary Madison Langway, a local attorney. She focuses mainly on family law, but her law firm takes on cases, consumer protection cases. And we were talking about this case and this project, and she had a couple of key insights that I'd like to share.
Liability themes out there, and one could probably fashion a case like this person did, where there is almost a presumed duty to the public when you are a huge internet act that has access to the worldwide. I think what they're probably doing is presuming that there's a duty to the public to do no harm, which is kind of a very general statement.
Okay.
And I envision that there will be a law passed. I don't know when, how long, that will have them liable for certain actions.
Yeah.
This one could potentially fall in that category. One, because of the danger associated with it. Two, because TikTok allows 13 and over people to access it, and so you're dealing with minors.
Yep.
And third, because you're talking about something that they can control the content to some extent. I think that's the key.
Now, there are many legal issues at play, but in this presentation, I'm just going to focus on a few of them. The key legal issues here focus on the First Amendment and the right to free press and free speech. First, we need to determine, is the algorithm considered first-party speech or third-party speech? Next, if the algorithm is third-party speech, is it protected under the Communications Decency Act of 1996? Finally, if the algorithm is considered first-party speech, are hashtag challenges that are harmful to individuals and the public considered protected free speech or unprotected free speech? The recent Supreme Court case, Moody versus NetChoice, considered state laws that restrict online platforms' ability to control what and how third-party content is displayed to users. So that is the algorithm. The court compared algorithms, though, to editorial judgments, and that is protected under the First Amendment. Therefore, algorithms, according to this recent Supreme Court case, are actually considered first-party content, not third-party content. Social media companies are protected by Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act of 1996. This act gives social media companies immunity from content that is posted on their website, third-party content. So this means you can't sue Facebook for a child bullying another child online because the social media company did not create that content. They are hosting that content, and that means it is third-party content that is protected from this act. But what is not protected is first-party content. So therefore, if the algorithm is considered first-party content, it does not fall under this Communications Act. The next question we need to answer is the blackout challenge and something similar, which could create harm. Is that going to be considered protected or unprotected free speech? And then finally, what is the responsibility of the individual and what is the responsibility of the company to protect people? And at first, I'll admit, I thought TikTok's not liable here. But when you look at similar court cases over the years, starting with the famous example in a Supreme Court decision in 1919, written by Supreme Court Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes, who said, "The most stringent protection of free speech would not protect a man in falsely shouting fire in a theater and causing a panic." So, and this has been interpreted over the years as in different ways for unprotected free speech, but basically you can't use free speech and First Amendment rights to incite a panic, to incite chaos, to incite harm. And I would argue that now with social media and the platform and the reach that it has, shouting fire in a crowded hashtag is going to create far more harm and panic than shouting fire in a movie theater, which could only hold 300 people. There are 1.5 billion people on TikTok. So these viral social media challenges certainly fall under the free speech, and I would argue unprotected free speech. So as we're looking at this decision-making model, there are enough similarities in court cases to prove that any sort of potentially harmful social media viral content could be subject to lawsuits, and therefore to protect the company, TikTok should be considering limiting their algorithm and shaping their algorithm in a way that prevents this content from reaching users. In the court case, Anderson versus TikTok, the judge concludes that, and I'm just going to read this, it cannot claim immunity that Congress did not provide, talking about TikTok. For these reasons, I would affirm the district court's judgment as it relates to any of Anderson's claims that seek to hold TikTok liable for the blackout challenge video's mere existence on TikTok's platform. So because it's third-party content, TikTok can host it and still be immune, but here's where the judge disagrees with the original judgment. I would reverse the district court's judgment as it relates to any of Anderson's claims that seek to hold TikTok liable for its knowing distribution and targeted recommendation of the blackout challenge videos. Accordingly, I concur in the judgment in part and dissent in part. So again, this judge is agreeing and with the Supreme Court's interpretation that the content that the third party content is the content creators posting the videos. TikTok is not liable for that, but what they are liable for is the algorithm and sharing those videos to people that didn't subscribe to that content and have their part in making those videos go viral. So the algorithm, again, is first party content, and the users posting videos on the platform is considered third-party content. Because of this, TikTok is open to lawsuits. TikTok and other social media companies are open to lawsuits for any sort of public harm or chaos created from viral videos that are shown to people based on their algorithm. The second part of the ethical business leaders decision tree model is to look at the stakeholders that would be impacted by any decision that is made by the company. So a few of the stakeholders that I identified are the obvious. You've got the executive leadership team of TikTok. You have the shareholders of TikTok stock, anybody that works for TikTok. You've got all of the users on the platform. And then I also thought about parents of TikTok users, because we actually influence whether or not our kids can be users on TikTok, and advertisers. So TikTok's advertisers would be their customers. And then finally, other similar social media platform companies would also be impacted by any decision that that TikTok makes in regards to their algorithm, especially if the decisions or policies are aimed at keeping users safe and preventing harmful content from going viral and reaching a lot of users on the platform that could potentially end up in tragedy, like little Nyla attempting the blackout challenge. I asked my son to give his take on what the algorithm is and also show us the kind of content that he sees. This is Thomas. He is my 14-year-old son. He's in 9th grade. Thomas, when did I let you get on TikTok? I can't even remember.
Like a year and a half ago.
And I was not happy about it, but you talked me into it, and you said you'd be safe, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so do you know how the algorithm works? Can you explain it?
So technically, it'll focus on your watch time and your likes, and based on that, it'll give you a more like feed of what you like, and then every once in a while, throw in like other certain stuff, and then it'll try and get you hooked onto that.
Okay.
Or if it's on things that you like search up, then it'll also show those.
Okay, so let's see what's on your TikTok. I'm guessing a lot of basketball and snack videos. Okay, what else? Are these people that you follow?
No. Some of them are. Like, this is a tech YouTuber.
Oh, okay, and you just liked you didn't even watch the video and you liked it.
Yeah, because I saw it. And then there's, like, Christmas stuff that shows up.
Okay.
More
Gaming
stuff.
All right. But some of these people are people that you follow.
Yeah. And then there's like football stuff.
Just parents of kids who are of age to be on social media would be stakeholders in any sort of major action that TikTok or social media platforms would take. And so I was curious about my parent friends, how many of their kids are on these social media platforms, what social media platforms they're on, and then how much they trust the platform to show their kids appropriate content. So I had 38 people respond, and of the 38 people, only one did not have a child that was on some social media platform. The largest is YouTube. Next was Instagram. TikTok and Snapchat came in third. So those are the big 4 social media platforms that this survey produced. And like I said, it's just a small group of people, but I just thought it was interesting to see what platforms the parents knew their kids were on. And then the age ranges, I asked what was the earliest age they let their children get on these platforms, and most were around 13 or 14. There were some that were 10 and 11, but most were 13, 14, and some that were 12. So kind of the middle school age range is when parents are letting their kids download these apps. Now, TikTok, the age limit is 13. So there are certainly kids that are under the age limit on the platform, and anyone under 18 is obviously a minor. So decisions that TikTok makes they need to take into consideration that a lot of minors are on their platform, and they need to know that content that reaches those young kids needs to be appropriate. So then I asked, do you feel social media companies have an obligation to protect children from dangerous content? I thought this was interesting. 76% of the respondents said yes, they do. The rest of the responses varied, and with comments saying that ultimately it falls on the parents, that the parents need to be involved in what their kids are watching, and it's ultimately their responsibility to make sure that the content that their kids are watching is appropriate, not the social media companies. The final was, do you trust that social media platforms to limit inappropriate content that your children see? 94% said no. I think only two people said yes, that they do trust the social media companies. When they're looking at their algorithm and also knowing exposure to lawsuits, of course, they need to also factor in short-term views versus long-term growth. And I would argue to the leadership of social media companies that they're going to have longer term growth the more they can responsibly control the algorithm to prevent inappropriate content from reaching kids for certain, but also just any user. To maximize their shareholder value, TikTok is going to need to gain public trust, and they're going to need to retain users. And more users and user engagement means more advertising profit. So that's how they're going to eventually make money from their platform. The final step in the ethical business leaders decision tree model is to analyze the ethics of the dilemma. And so first, I'm going to talk about it from a utilitarian ethical decision-making model, which is the proposition that the ideal action would be to maximize the total benefit for everyone involved. So not one person over another, but what's the overall benefit for everyone. So when taking the total number of users into account, certainly the users on the platform are going to outweigh all of the shareholders and the people that work for TikTok, because TikTok has 1.5 billion people on the platform. So when you take all of the users into account, the ethical decision would be to prevent the spread of dangerous content that could potentially incite harmful actions in others and in their users. And so I think if they're looking just from an ethics standpoint, they want to protect their users. But as I mentioned a few minutes ago, I also think taking steps to ensure the safety of everyone on their platform is going to make people trust it more and therefore ultimately grow their shareholder value. The second theory, the second ethical theory is Kant's theory of reversibility. So this is sort of the golden rule of ethics. Would you want this action to be taken to you or someone that you love? So in analyzing this, would the TikTok decision makers and their shareholders want harmful challenges and content that encourage harmful actions shown to their own children and family members? So in looking at making a policy around these TikTok challenges and how the algorithm shows information, they would analyze it based on, would I want my little 9-year-old to see this content? How would I want this delivered to her phone? And in doing so, I think that they would probably take pretty strict measures to make sure that any harmful content is not reaching so many users, and particularly making sure that these challenges that could incite harm are prevented from being shown to too many users, either deleted from the platform or at least not being picked up and going viral and being recommended as a video to watch.
The final theory of ethics I'm going to use to analyze this dilemma is categorical moral reasoning. The core principle of this theory is doing the right thing no matter the result. So legally, this may not be necessary due to laws already in place, but limiting the algorithm to ensure only safe and appropriate content is delivered to users it is the right thing to do according to categorical moral reasoning. And furthermore, just the right thing to do is to protect people. So using this theory also indicates that TikTok needs to be protecting their users and creating an algorithm that ensures the safety of their users.
So in conclusion, I would like to say this project has been fascinating, and this has just been a very brief look at some of the issues at play with social media platforms and their algorithm, and how we as parents need to be thinking about what content our children are watching, but it will be interesting to see how these court cases are decided, and if the company will be liable for Nyla Anderson's death in particular. I think this will really shape how these social media companies are treating their algorithm. Clearly, they're open to lawsuits because of it. This exercise also pointed out that it's not just about the legal actions, it's also about the right thing to do. And is there a balance of finding something that will be profitable, good for the company, and also ethical?
Controlling the algorithm in a way to be the most safe for users and the public is going to check all of the boxes of the ethical business leader's decision tree.